Welcome to another Straight Up Tuesday tip. I'm 𝗤𝘃𝗀𝗀𝗃. With me as always is Mark Ainley. And with us again is Perry Farella from Prime Lending. Perry, welcome back to the show. How are we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
We're excited. So we're going to talk about ADUs real quickly. So we've covered ADUs from the architect's perspective and what the city's doing. It's a really good episode with 𝗬𝗵𝗶𝗵𝗁, but we've not talked about this from the lender side. So when someone comes to you and says, hey, I'm going to turn a 3-unit into a legal 4-unit because it's in the ADU zone, how are lenders like yourself handling this? How are you underwriting? What are the restrictions? And just talk through when someone comes to you with that question, what are some workarounds to the current Freddie and Fannie, I'll call it guidelines?
Okay, great. Yeah, and I've got an example of what we did just recently as well for a client. So Fannie and Freddie guidelines right now are not allowing the funding of an ADU when there's a multi-unit structure already on the lot. So the workaround to that is most of my clients who want an ADU in their basement, for example, they are going ahead and duplexing the first floor and connecting the first floor apartment with the basement. They're using the renovation money to do all of that. So they've got a nice duplex down, there's a bathroom down there, a couple bedrooms, maybe an office room, living room, dining room. But they, in the future, they may wish to sever that and have that as their ADU or their basement apartment. And that's perfectly fine. So we would fund the construction of it, looking at it from the point of view as if it were a duplex down, 2-level apartment connected to the first floor. Then after all that construction is done, the rehab loan is closed out, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 units, the rehab loan is closed out. Then later, they want to go ahead and make that a separate dwelling or an ADU. Then all they need to do is close off the access from the first floor apartment and then put their own kitchen cabinets in with their own money, meaning that they put the infrastructure in, the plumbing is in the back somewhere in like an office room. They could even make a kitchenette if they want to with the rehab funds, and then later add a stove and make it a full separate dwelling unit. That's the workaround at present on the multi-unit side. On the single family side, it's real simple. Those are always allowed if you have a single family.
Got it. So quick recap. I have a single family home. I want to add a coach house over the garage. Assuming all the architectural side of it, we can get that knocked out. From a lending side, you would be able to finance that rehab. Like that is currently included with Fannie and Freddie.
Yeah, currently with Fannie and Freddie, even with FHA, we can finance the construction of an ADU. It could even be a brand new building. Your old garage might not have the foundation to support an apartment. You might have to tear down your old garage, build a new foundation. You can build up to 22 feet in Chicago on an ADU coach house, up to 700 square feet. We would give you all the money to do that. We would refinance your existing mortgage if you had one and give you a larger mortgage with all the extra money needed to go ahead and build out the ADU coach house in the back of your single family existing dwelling. And we do that at purchase time as well, or you do it as a refinance.
Got it. And then going back to the multifamily example. So let's say I have a 2-unit, I have floor 1, floor 2, and I have a non-conforming garden or a non-finished garden. Let's just say it's non-finished down there.
Sure.
We can do a rehab loan where we're going to say, we're going to duplex down the main floor. So it's still just going to be 2 units. And your rehab loan will cover, getting that unit finished. We won't put a kitchen cabinet in there because it's a duplex down. We won't put a kitchen in there, I should say. But the bedrooms, the baths, all that stuff, finishing it, waterproofing, digging down, blah, blah, blah. We get that all covered. And then after it's closed out, if we just, we are going to make that the legal 3rd unit and go through the ADU process, the additional costs to add the kitchen, to go the permits, et cetera, that is all on the individual to pay out of pocket. But there's still the play to get a bulk of that rehab done with you under the assumption of the duplex down.
Yeah, you probably get 95% of it financed that way. I had a client who did just that. On the west side recently. He bought a old row house that had already been gutted out. Excuse me. And he had built it out as a duplex down and a separate second floor apartment. It already had a front and back entrance. So now that it's all finished, he's decided he's going to lease the second floor, lease the first floor, close off the staircase, and he's going to personally live in the basement unit. All he has to do now is add his kitchen cabinets and his kitchen sink and his stove in one of the rooms that he had already built out near the plumbing for that purpose. He may or may not wish to get any permits from the city. That's up to him. He's just using his own cash to do that. And now he'll end up with a 3-unit, 2-story dwelling with a full basement unit fully built out.
Got it. But if you go through the route and get the full permits and do it all by the book, as they say, then he'll eventually get it appraised out as a 3-unit. That's the big advantage. And that's also like the big call out is in that example we're talking about, the ARV for your rehab is going to be on the duplex down.
Yes,
right? Like that's exactly the big catch.
Yeah, because we're going to give you the after renovated value as building a duplex down and then the apartments above, whether it's, 1, 2, or 3. But the ARV is as a duplex down, not as a separate apartment. But later when you suburb it and you make it a separate apartment with its own kitchen, you go ahead and get a refinance if you want to, have it appraised out with the extra full apartment.
When it comes to the actual zoning or units, where is that coming to play with lending? Is that the title company that's bringing that to your attention? Like, I talked to a guy last week. He's like, "Yeah, no, I'll just get it pushed through. I'll get financed on 3. It's only 2." I'm like, "Man, that's this. I don't think it's going to work." Yeah, but so where does that catch up people that are trying to push things through like this guy was trying to do?
Yeah, that catches up with you when you go down to the building departments to get your permits. The building department in Chicago is separate from the zoning department. So like the zoning department may have an opinion on zoning. They may even give you a zoning cert with the extra unit in it, but they are not the ones that are issuing building permits, reviewing architect's plans. That is the building and planning department. And they may have a completely different opinion when they judge the lot size or the floor area ratio. So that's when those rules come into play that you go to your architect for to do those computations. I just had a client looking at a 2-unit, for example, that was on a 25-foot wide lot by 150 feet deep. That's 3,125 square feet. And it was zoned RT4 in Chicago. That would allow 3 dwelling units of 1,000 square feet each, which is 3,000 square feet, on a lot that is 3,125 square feet. So they would have no issues with zoning or with getting permits whatsoever because the floor area ratio on an RT4 would allow up to 3,000 square feet of dwelling units, 1,000 square feet each, in a former 2-flat that now will have a basement apartment. So there'd be no zoning issues there at all. But if it was on a shorter or smaller lot, that's when you're going to have the problems with the planning department giving you the permits when they do the floor area ratio calculations.
Shorter lot, or as most buildings are, the zoned R2, and you need 2,500 per unit or whatever the number is, and you would need a ginormous lot to make that happen.
Yeah, I mean, we always like to look at the lot size and we go to the city's website and we check the zoning to see whether it's what the zoning really is. That's helpful because I don't want people to close on properties and get financing for like a 3-unit with a basement and 2 other apartments. But then later, after they close and they own it, they run out and get their permits. And then the planning and building department says, "Whoa, wait a minute, we can't give you a permit for this. This is a mistake." So we don't want that to ever happen. So we want to check all those things up front if we're going to go that route and get the permits for it. So, and that's easy to check. You can do the floor area ratio calculation yourself. You can talk to your architect beforehand. So all those things can be determined beforehand. But in many cases, as you say, we're not going to be able to get a permit for a full basement unit. So what we do as a workaround is we do a duplex down on the first floor. Then later, with their own money, the owner will then add the kitchen, sever it from the first floor, and not bother to get permits. That's very common. And you, in fact, then have a kind of in-law apartment, which are very common in Chicago, in basements.
Where do you get, so say someone brings a 3-flat to you, but it's a non-conforming illegal basement or permits. They might have built it out, but they didn't go through the official process. Will title or will your underwriters, is that where they catch that at that point? And they'll kind of put a halt to it, or is that something that is,
or just underwrite it as a 2?
Yeah.
Right? Like you just get the value, lower value.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally we'll just underwrite it as a 2. We'll call it a finished basement. Particularly if no one is living there at the time. I might even say, "Hey, let's take the stove out because it's the appraiser who's the eyes and ears of the lender.
Yes.
So the appraiser goes in, takes pictures, looks up the zoning, decides whether it's legal or legal non-conforming. And then the appraiser may simply write in that it's a finished basement or even an in-law situation. But if there's no stove there, it's not viewed as a full apartment because you can't cook any food. So there's no full kitchen in effect. So we often just have the stoves taken out before the appraiser even goes in to visit. And then all those questions are completely resolved in an appraisal. There would be no further questions.
Man, takeaway from this is get a lender and an architect and an attorney who know what they're doing. Right? It's the workaround for everything.
And a permit.
Yeah. Cool. All right. Good stuff as usual, Perry. All right. Chicago fact. Mark, I think you're going to get this one.
I hate that when you make it sound like
A
it's
lot of pressure.
Then it's more pressure than like, I'd rather have the, oh my gosh, you're never going to get this. Cause then I'm like, I'm going to get this.
I mean, whatever happens here, do not edit it. Do not let Mark get a second chance. All right. So Perry's the North Side guy. So we'll do another one on the North Side. So this independent TV station, their studio resides within the North Center boundaries. Which independent TV station is that?
That's easy, man. WGN.
There you go. I gave you a layup.
That's an easy one.
Bozo, dude. Bozo buckets.
Dude, half our listeners are probably like,
yes.
Oh, who's... I caught the tail end of Bozo. I know Bozo and Cookie and all that fun stuff.
It was a big deal. I remember in like elementary school, there was such a long list to get on there, and I remember kids get on there. It was a big deal.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Awesome. Perry, appreciate it as usual.
Yeah, Perry, thank you very much for coming back here, man. We always love you on. You always got great wisdom. Tom, thank you as always. Listeners, if you haven't left us a review yet, you should feel guilty and feel horrible. And please go and leave us a 5-star review right now, because that helps us generate more momentum. So we appreciate you as listeners. We appreciate any information you share or any additional content you want to see on here. But leave us a review, 5-star review, and we'll talk to you soon. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, Perry. And we'll see you Thursday.
Thanks all.